Hello learners, I am Professor Ashish Ranjan from the Department of Education, University of Delhi, and I shall be discussing today from the course Contemporary India and Education, unit number Equality and Equity in Education, and within that I shall be looking at a very important theme for all of us, and that is the constitutional provisions for promoting equality. I repeat once again, constitutional provisions for promoting equality. The clear objectives, the two objectives of today's discussion would be first, to understand the role of the Constitution in ensuring equality in Indian society, and second, to acquaint us about the various constitutional provisions for promoting equality in the contemporary Indian society. Now, the Constitution of India is the most important document for any citizen of India. In fact, it is the guiding light for promoting equality, and the Constitution of India was adopted in 1950, and from 1950 onwards till present times, it has been shaping our ideas, it has been shaping our future, and it grants equal opportunity to the individuals in all spheres and also directs the state to ensure that no discrimination is done to any individual on any basis, such as gender, caste, or discrimination based on region, religion. There's so much of hate speech going on. The Constitution of India does not allow that at all. It tries to ensure that efforts shall be made for the well-being of the deprived sections of the society. It also gives power to the central government as well as to the state governments to frame the laws to achieve the well-being of the masses. There are various constitutional provisions which promote equity and equality in Indian society, and we shall be discussing them one by one right now. The first and foremost, or I would say the very important provision from the Constitution of India is what is called as the free and compulsory education, the provision for free and compulsory education, which comes to us from the Article 21A of the Indian Constitution, which came into existence after the very popular 86th Amendment Act in the year 2009, and it got implemented from 2010 onwards. It's popularly known as the RTE Act or the Right to Education Act. Now, this act is something which specifies that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children from the age of 6 to 14 years. Okay, so if you are born, once you have age of 6, then you have the right to get free and compulsory education in any government institution, and you can continue to do that till you are age of 14. So it also provides 25% reservation to the students belonging to what is called as the EWS category, or the economically weaker sections of the society in the privately managed educational institutions. So we have the RT from 6 to 14 years, we have the EWS up to 25% reservation for the people of India to get admissions and get educated. Now, another important constitutional provision is what is called provisions for the education of the minorities. And there are various articles here also. We have to look at the articles. One article is what is called as Article 30 of the Indian Constitution, which relates to certain cultural and educational rights available to the minority groups, wherein they may establish and administer educational institutions. Now, this Article 30 clearly specifies that all minorities, whether based on religion or a minority based on language, should have the right to establish and administer educational institutions for the minority groups. For example, you can think of an example of the Khalsa College in the University of Delhi, which is a minority institution established for the Sikh community or the popular St. Stephen's College, again of Delhi University, which is again a minority institution established for the Christians. We have also had the Jamia Millia Islamia for the Muslims, the Aligarh Muslim University, and at the school level we have the Guru Har Krishan Public Schools for the Sikh minority community. So there are provisions for the education of the minority communities in India, which is very, very significant development. And also the state shall not discriminate against any educational institution on the ground that it is under the management of a minority community based on religion or language. So that's important, that the state takes precautions and takes that careful provision that educational institutions are nurtured by the minority communities, be it the Sikhs, the Christians, the Muslims, the Jews, and this is all over India. And that has successfully run so far in the country, both at the level of the school education and also at the level of the higher education as such. Then there are also important provisions which are called as the language safeguards, or the provisions which safeguard our languages. And here again you have some articles to remember. One is Article 29 Part 1, or you can say 29(1) of the Indian Constitution, which states that any section of the citizens residing in the territory of India or any part thereof having a distinct language, script or culture of its own shall have the right to conserve the same. That means whatever language you are speaking, you have the freedom to actually protect, conserve, propagate the same language. Then there is also another important article which is called as Article 350 Part B, 350B of the Indian Constitution, which provides for the appointment of special officers for linguistic minority groups who are supposed to be investigating into the matters relating to safeguarding of the rights of the linguistic minorities under the Constitution of India. Along with them, you also have very other popular provisions in the Constitution, such as provisions for education of the weaker sections in the Indian society. And we have a large number of articles in this. Article 15 and Article 17 of the Indian Constitution safeguard the social interests of the weaker sections of the Indian community. For instance, Article 15 forbids discrimination on the grounds of caste, creed, color, sex or place of birth, whereas Article 17 focuses upon the abolition of untouchability. You recall that when India became independent, I think there was this concept of untouchables who would not be allowed to come to the water tanks and drink water or come to the temples. But the government of India, when it decided to make the constitution, and from 1950 onwards, one of the foremost social efforts was to abolish untouchability, and if you practice that today, you will be behind the bars. Similarly, Article 46 of the Indian Constitution establishes that the federal government is responsible for the economic and educational development of the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. So the STs and the STs are also taken care of, and the economic and educational development comes from this Article 46. It also states, and that's very important, that the state shall promote with special care the educational and economic interests of the weaker sections of the people, and in particular of the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes, and shall protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. In fact, we have a very important ministry today, which is the Ministry of Social Justice, which takes care of the education for the weaker sections, and it takes care that they are not humiliated, they are not having any unequal experiences in their classrooms or at the workplaces and in the higher education institutions as such. Along with this concern for the weaker sections, the constitutional provisions are also regarding promoting or secular education in India. You would remember, students, that India is a secular country as per the constitution. That is, it does not have any national religion, and all religions in fact are equal in the eyes of the Constitution of India. Some of the articles which ensure the secular nature of educational institutions would be as follows. First and foremost would be the Article 25 Part 1, or we can call it as Article 25(1) of the Constitution, which guarantees all the citizens the right to freedom of conscience and the rights to profess, practice and propagate their religion. Then you also have this Article 30, which maintains that the state shall not discriminate in granting aid to educational institutions maintained by the state or receiving aid or out of state funds on grounds of religion, caste, race, language and any one of them. Then you have Article 28 Part 1, or we call it as 28(1), which states that no religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institution if wholly maintained out of the state fundings. Article 28 Part 2 states that nothing in Clause 1 shall apply to an educational institution which is administered by the state but has been established under any endowment or trust which requires that religious instructions shall be imparted in such a institution. Article 28 Part 3 further states that no person attending any educational institution by the state or receiving aid out of the state funds shall be required to take part in any religious instruction that may be imparted in such institutions or to attend any religious worship that may be conducted in such institution or in any premises attached thereto, unless such a person, or if such a person is minor, his guardian has given his consent thereto. So these are very, very important articles 28(1), 28(2) and 28(3), which are talking about secular education in India. Remember, your work schools, your colleges are supposed to be welcoming all religions, and they are all to be promoting secular education, and that spirit has to be maintained. Along with this concern for respect to all religions, the Constitution has also a large number of provisions which talks about equality of opportunities in educational institutions. That's very, very important, that we are a diverse country, so everyone should be getting the equal opportunity to participate and get educated. And we have again a series of articles in this. Article 29 Part 1 of the Indian Constitution states that no citizen shall be denied admission into any educational institution maintained by the state or receiving aid out of state funds on the grounds of religion, race, caste, language or any one of them. So, if you are an Indian citizen, you have full freedom to join any educational institution and get into higher education. The state will always welcome you, no one can stop you. Remember this. Then along with this, you also have a series of fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution, which also adopt the threefold ideas of equality, liberty, justice and fraternity. All these are very, very important words: equality, liberty, fraternity and social justice. You can read it that way. So, the fundamental right of equality clearly signifies that in the court of law, no distinction can be made on the basis of any position or any caste or any class or any creed. Side by side, the right of equality of opportunities is also provided. India also has a lot of provision regarding instructions in the mother tongue. That's very, very important. the language which you speak in your home, which your mother talks to you, and when you were a child, you have been talking to your parents. So India is a multilingual state. The Constitution of India recognizes that, and the Constitution of India has also emphasized that we are a diverse country, and on this diversity it mentions that the study of one's own language is also a very, very fundamental concern, and it's a very fundamental right of the citizens. And if you just take this constitution aside and you talk to people who are engaged with education, and they will also tell you that pedagogically, that is the way we connect with the students, or the art and science of teaching, if you look from that perspective also, the educationists and the psychologists strongly believe that the elementary education should be given in only mother's tongue. You have currently the NEP 2020, the new education policy, and earlier we had the very popular National Curriculum Framework 2005. All these documents have emphasized on teaching young children in their own mother tongue, and that seemed to be very, very influential. Apart from this, we have another very important article, and that is Article 26(1), Part 1 of the Article 26 of the Indian Constitution, which states that any section of the citizens residing in the territory of India or any part thereof having a distinct language or a distinct script or a culture of its own shall have the right to converse the same. So whatever culture you come from, whatever language you speak, be proud of it. Don't be a shy person, because you have the right by the Constitution of India to converse in your language. Whatever accent, whatever script it has, it's okay. Okay, so be confident in speaking in your own language and preserve your cultural roots. Then we also have a very popular article, which is Article 350A of the Indian Constitution, which also directs that it shall be the endeavour of every state and every local authority to provide adequate facilities for instruction in the mother tongue at the primary stage of education to children belonging to linguistic minority groups. So that means if you are from classes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you would be getting education in your own language, that is your mother tongue. And that has been promoted, and that's why we have seen people getting into schools and they are looking for people who can teach them in their own mother tongue, because it's understood that probably children study and comprehend and articulate better in their own language. And that is why there is a trend that there are multilingual classrooms, there are multi-language classrooms are seen to be as a strength in an English classroom or a Hindi classroom or a Sanskrit classroom. So these are important. Along with that, a lot of effort is also made on the education of women. You all know, learners, that traditionally this has been this great patriarchal mindset in the Indian context, that if you have sons and daughters, you only send your sons to the schools, and women were confined to doing their household work and they would not be sent to the school. It was understood, or it was thought for a long time, that women have to get married. Once they grow up, they have to get married. So why actually invest in their education? It was seen as a sheer wastage of education. And that's why the Constitution of India has been very, very conscious right from its inception in 1950 that women's education are promoted and protected. And all the educational policies in India, whether it was in the early 60s or in the 80s or the recent one, which is the National Education Policy of 2020, they have time and again emphasized on promoting and safeguarding the rights which nurture women's education. So you will find a lot of places having concessions or seats being reserved or being given preference if you have a girl child, and there is emphasis on the education of the girl child. The popular line, sab badhe, okay, beti bachao, beti padhao, all these are the good examples of promotion of women's education which comes from the Indian Constitution. And a very important article in this is what is called as Article 15 Part 1 of the Indian Constitution, which provides that the state shall not discriminate any citizen or group of citizens on the basis of gender. I time and again emphasize that gender is a sociological construct, the way we expect men and women to take certain responsibilities. So if you have a woman or you have a transgender or if you have a third gender also a person in the family, he or she has full right to get educated. And in fact, there are many states in India which have kept free and compulsory education for girl child, or there is very less fee. Or when you are applying for education in an institution of the government of India or a state government, very often you have a lot of concession if you are a woman as compared to a male child. So these are important concerns which the government is trying to safeguard. Along with that, you also have Article 15 Part 3 of the Constitution, which reads that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provision for women and children both. So from time and again you would have seen all these male bastions are being opened. Earlier women were not allowed in the army or in the air force or in the navy, but now you see women actually entering these gates and they are becoming good officers and very efficient officers, and in fact institutions are preferring them. Earlier women were allowed or maybe get educated up to a particular level and they would join as school teachers. But today you will see them walking across all walks of life and they are doing very good job and they are very mentally tough. In fact, almost around 49% women have access today in India to higher education. So there is an increasing number from the independence till date, large number of women are getting educated in India. And in fact, states which have shied down earlier of not having education are also promoting up, whether it's Kerala or whether it's Himachal or whether it's the northeastern states where there has always been a very high rate of women's education. Very recently or of late, even the Bimaru states or the states of Rajasthan and Bihar or Odisha where the women's education was lagging behind has also taken up, and the constitutional provisions are actually playing a very important role in promotion of their education. So these are some of the constitutional provisions, and to sum it up, we must remember that India is a diverse country. We have a plural society, we have a multicultural society where people of different languages, different races, religion, ethnicity, cultural orientations are living together. And the Constitution of India, which came in 1950, and since then it has been trying to provide equal opportunities to all these diverse groups, to all these different kinds of socially contextualized people to have access to education so as to ensure that there is equality in the society. There is sameness to all. Everyone gets a chance to study, everyone gets a chance to do the practicals, and everyone gets a chance to even participate in sporting activities and the scholastic and co-scholastic activities. Earlier we wouldn't have found women participating in maybe sporting activities or maybe some debating competition, but everywhere now women are being encouraged to come ahead and participate thanks to the Indian Constitution. Along with that, there are also many basic provisions in the Constitution such as the fundamental rights, which talk about the right to equality, right to liberty, and right of promotion of your own religious values and opening your institutions. There are a series of fundamental rights which all protect and promote the idea of equality. After that, you also have the directive principles of the state policies, what is called as the DPSPs. Okay, and they also are very important provision in the Constitution of India to promote equality, and they provide various special rights, all kinds of rights are there. It's very detailed because of shortage of time I cannot probably tell you all the rights, but there are various special rights, and the acts provide the roadmap for creation of an equitable society, a society which is fair to everyone. So that's why you keep seeing from time and again, you will keep seeing that there are amendments in the Indian Constitution, or the government comes up with certain provisions which actually tries to make equitable society. I'll give an example from Delhi government. Delhi government decided recently to keep the Delhi Transport Corporation's buses free or freely available for women of Delhi. And that's a very interesting and that's a very popular step. And there were the results seen that women started traveling more, especially those who were working as domestic maids or those who are working as peons or those who are working in households. They have to go early. So the buses become very, very helpful for them. So more women could come out, they could travel on the road, and that's why they got equal opportunities to participate in a large number of economic activities also. So look how one rule or two rules or maybe certain amendments in a constitution can create an immense, I think, a scope for women to come out and participate and contribute to the making of the nation as such. Along with that, instructions in mother tongue are being encouraged. Of course, we have a love for English, we know that. In India, we have a love for English and we want our children to go in this English medium school right from day one. But we also need to ensure that the Constitution of India has given us provision to speak or talk or maybe imagine also in your own mother tongue. And educationists and researchers have found that if the children are learning in mother tongue, it's better. You try, why don't you try yourself? I give you an example in English, you might not understand. But the moment you have an example from your own cultural context, the moment you have an example from in your own language, you'll immediately understand, you'll be immediately able to connect. Similarly, there are concerns for equal opportunities in the educational institutions, and there are certain seats also reserved. The Government of India reserves seats for the scheduled castes, for the scheduled tribes, for the other backward classes, for the economically weaker sections, for children and widow of the armed personnel, and also for persons with benchmark disabilities. So if you have up to 40% disability, you will get an opportunity to study in the higher education institutions. So we need to be aware, we need to be reading our Indian Constitution, and we should be looking into the provisions of promotion of equality and promotion of equity amongst us in the Indian society. Along with that, do not forget the very, very punchline, or I would say the very important line of the Indian Constitution, and that is, we are a secular place. We are a secular country. We are not a theocratic country. We are a secular country which does not have any one single monolithic homogeneous national religion, but we have multiple religions. And that's why the Constitution of India encourages all religions and promotes and protects all religious practices, and we appreciate multiple views and multicultural identities also. There are provisions for that. You can go in details about the Constitution and you will find this is one of the hearts, this is the main core ideas of a secular education and secular spaces in the country. Just as there are provisions for education for the weaker sections, especially for the other backward classes, and also for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. And the Indian Constitution establishes that the federal government is responsible for the economic and educational development of the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. That's very, very important. And right from independence onwards till the present times, we have seen the state has endeavored to promote education of these classes as such. Along with that, of course, there is also concern for safeguarding our languages, which I have talked about earlier. Okay, there you can actually have education in your for the linguistic minorities, and they could investigate into the matters related to safeguarding of their rights as the linguistic minorities under the Constitution of India. And there are special provisions for the minorities, and all minorities, whether we are a minority on the basis of religion or we are a minority on the basis of language, there are provisions, and we need to read it first rather than depending on someone else to tell us. Read the Constitution, find out the rules and regulations and practice that in your life and make it a better world for you and me and for all of us. Thank you so much, and I hope you were able to understand. Thank you.